Probably retitle this session, Remember the Ladies. I think of another woman who wanted credit. So anyway, Edith Hamlin, the subject of the striking 1935 portrait by her friend Anna Catherine Skeel, possessed what was described as a roadrunner vitality. Maynard Dixon called her Speedy Edie, and his son Daniel Dixon recollected that she was tall and slender with rough red hands, full of whooping laughter, and she literally bounced with energy. You never heard that lady complain about fatigue. Hamlin was a talented muralist who also produced striking multi-part screens, easel paintings, prints, and wall hangings, but little of her work has entered public collections. So if any of you own a work by her, talk to me, okay? How did Hamlin disappear? She was a woman artist, and from the West. Her first marriage was to an artist who was not supportive of her work. Her second marriage was to Maynard Dixon, and while a happy union for both partners, he was a well-established Western artist, almost 30 years her senior. Whoops. Okay, I thought I was going forward. Here I am. Here it is. They collaborated on several works, including a post office mural, The Road to El Dorado, in 1939, from Martinez, California, as well as painting Red Canyon, which she finished in 1947, the year after his death. His last years were ones of increasing frailty, and Hamlin assumed the character of caretaker. At his death, the widow became the custodian of his estate, served as his archive for researchers, and occasionally restored his work. At least one dealer thinks that Maynard's signature was added to some of her works. No wonder she went off the radar. Since the landmark publication and exhibition organized by the Autry Museum of Western Heritage in 1995, Independent Spirits, Women Painters in the American West, scholars have worked hard to restore a resonant female voice to the Chronicle of the American West. Many of these figures have now been the subject of scholarly articles and monographs. Edith Hamlin was one of the many artists included in this exhibition, which was my first introduction to her work, and we see the one that was in the show, Canyon of Flame and Storm. Growing up in the Bay Area, Edith Hamlin was a child of the Bay Area, where she spent much of her life, and on the screen is a 1935 watercolor of her of the building of the Golden Gate Bridge, one of the quintessential structures in San Francisco. Born in Oakland in 1902, you may recognize this work. It's in the BYU Museum. Her parents were Mary Symington Wallace Hamilton and Charles Francis Hamilton. In addition to Edith, their second child, there was an older son, Edwin, and two younger sisters, Helen and Laura. The home was a cultured one, and the children grew up with music, literature, and the dramatic arts. Her father was a musician, teacher, composer, and an amateur watercolorist who encouraged his daughter to study art. Between 1922 and 1924, she took classes at the California School of the Arts in San Francisco, including studying mural painting with Ray Boynton. Finished with her studies, she set up her studio in San Francisco, but illness soon intervened when she first came down with the flu and then tuberculosis. It would be 4 years before she was fully recovered. In 1928, she moved to San Diego and established a studio there, began to teach art classes in Balboa Park, and participated in solo and group shows, consistently receiving positive views of her work, as seen in this one in 1928 from the San Diego Tribune. The work is decidedly strong, colorful, and interesting, and much of it attractive. Oils, pastel, charcoal, also monotype and woodcut prints. It includes easel pictures, decorative panels, and screens. The critics noted that the screens are among her finest exhibits. I have never seen one of them, so if any of you have one of those, get in touch with me. One featured a heavy green filiate cactus, and another featured marmoset white monkeys with their amusing little white faces, a picturesque heron with banana leaves and other semi-tropical scenery conventionalized in the background. In 1929, her newest screen was described as a monumental design covering 5 panels and totaling over 7 feet in length. That it breathes of the desert, and while not attempting to invade the realm of paint perspective, it gives an uncanny hallucination of space and distance. She found the inspiration for her most interesting work in the semi-tropical plants of the desert, in the native animal life, and in the zoo. Another distinctive body of her work, and there are a few of these that survive, were her wall hangings, which she called textile murals. These works were made on cloth, which a critic felt was ideally adapted to informal California home walls. Rather than blank walls, which were then in vogue, Hamlin felt that California homes needed warm colored treatment for large walls, and she developed painted fabric hangings as a result. That these pieces were not framed but rather hung naturally, where they would be subject to dust and light, may account for their scarcity. This is one hanger piece that does survive. Aloe and Mockingbirds measures approximately 50 by 37 inches. A reviewer in early 1932 observed, "The paint has been so carefully handled that most of the hangings appear to be weavings in color rather than painted cloth." I'll show you a series of her works as I talk. Most of them are undated and most of them are not in public collections. This is Bird and Bush, Persimmons, which conveys her strong sense of color. Hamlin decided to go east in 1929, following a unidentified gentleman friend, though her timing could not have been worse. I hadn't been there a week when the 1929 crash came, but she decided to stay and attended classes at Columbia Teachers College, taught at the Ethical Culture School, and freelanced as a decorator while exhibiting her work. Her show at the Opportunity Gallery was reviewed in the New York Times in February 1930. Edith Hamlin, whose mural hangings have already been received with favor here, is exhibiting at the Art Center, a group of both her paintings and textile panels. Motivation for much of her work comes from the desert country of Lower California, where she has made a close study of the flora and fauna, which I just lost. Before introducing them into her wall designs, Hamlin uses such symbols as the spiny cactus and other indigenous plant and animal species with considerable originality and a good sense of decoration. This is a woodcut called Firebrand. She kind of has one of every sort of work that survives. After 3 years in New York, she realized that the work she was doing to make a living in the city was keeping her from the project she wished to pursue as an artist. Finding that there was so much more opportunity right at that moment in the West, she returned to San Francisco in 1933. In addition to canvases inspired by the flora of California is this one of two mountain lions. This is a review she received in New York. Many of her themes are Southwestern in design and feeling, bringing to them boldness and luminosity, that they are handled with a stylized and sensitive manner. In her mural hangings achieved through an exacting use of stencil and airbrush technique. On linen and canvas, Hamlin gives us the desert flora and fauna in a modern style, which are at once characteristic, yet purely and simply stylized in an almost naive manner. I love this one. This is the old store at Ransburg, and it's the only mining scene I think she did. I would have loved to have had this for my mining show. Her show at the Stendhal Galleries and was reviewed in the Los Angeles Times in 1933. Interior decorators should see her exhibit here, for here is something genuine in a field ordinarily choked with mediocre copying of old paintings. Her decorations are based on a careful study of Western birds, plants, and animals. She is well trained, and her works have the poetry only possible in original thought and meaning. She was less fortunate in her personal life. In 1934, she married artist Albert Barrows, president of the California Society of Murals. The marriage was not successful, and they divorced in 1936. Most accounts say he divorced her. Well, it was a group project. Unsupportive of her work, Hamlin was depressed by his constant criticism, as he made it clear he wanted to mold her into someone which really wasn't me at all, she said, into a different personality. A series of murals. Hamlin was successful in the field of mural painting. Her first mural competition was for the Coit Tower, located on a dramatic site rising 210 feet above Telegraph Hill in San Francisco and constructed between 1932 and 1933. It was a site of an exceptional number of murals. 27 artists received commissions from the Public Works of Art program. Hamlin was given a difficult spot on the second floor on each side of the elevator door. Her theme was hunting in California, and she focused on duck and deer hunting. You've seen the duck flying over, and this scene shows a flight set of hunters ready to shoot, and the final scene has a pleased hunter who's had a very good day. Here she is, sitting on a ladder, working on her commission for the library of Mission High School. She painted 2 large murals in tempera, each 6 feet by 24 feet. The themes are the Mission San Francisco Assis and Civilization through the arts and crafts is taught to the neophyte Indians. Now that term is rather odd. Executed between 1936 and 1937, it was technically ambitious, and she was assigned 2 assistants to work with her. Since there is another paper on this commission by Megan Anderson Evans, I will leave further discussion to her. Are you in the audience? I hope.
She's joining us by video.
Yeah.
She's joining us by what?
She recorded.
Oh, okay, got it. I won't get a chance to meet her then. In 1938, for the Tracy, California Post Office, located in the San Joaquin Valley, she chose to portray a theme of local history, and this was very common in murals. In 3 paintings, she presented the Spaniards, the overland pioneers. This mural is missing, and the final one was the days of the first railroad. Okay, Maynard Dixon and Edith Hamlin. This handsome portrait by Sonia Nosfiak dates from 1937, the year that Hamlin married Maynard Dixon. We sense her energy, yet some of the calm thoughtfulness with which she negotiated Maynard's increasing disability. She met Dixon while still an art student, but it was not until the mid-30s that they connected personally. By 1935, Edith was seeing a great deal of Maynard. She and Maynard began to meet often for meals, and they often took short painting trips together, and he was a regular visitor to her small cottage on Telegraph Hill overlooking the city. She remembered Maynard used to come by here quite a bit, and he called it his part-time home. They both savored the warmth of a new relation, as Hamlin recollected. It was a really wonderful change in my life in many ways. Maynard let me be what I was and valued me as such. Maynard, who was kindly, sensitive, and sympathetic, and certainly companionable, it was a marvelous change. They married in Carson City, Nevada in September 1937. Hamlin regarded her time with Dixon as the happiest period of her life, calling them golden years. Their recent divorces made them both grateful that they had washed up on the same beach, as Hamlin put it. Depressed at the end of his 15-year marriage to Dorothea Lange, Maynard responded to Hamlin's genuine warmth and vivacious personality. She came into his life at just the right time, as Daniel recalled. She just sort of appeared like leaves on a tree in the spring. I love that phrase. It was Hamlin who pulled him through bouts of physical and psychological devastation. His son John observed, from that time on, they lived as a team, worked as a team, usually sharing the same subject matter. It was interesting to watch them. Alert to Dixon's health issues, he would suffer from emphysema for the rest of his life. They decided to leave the damp and chilly moistness of the Bay Area for the aridity of the Southwest. After a studio sale, they settled in Tucson in 1931, building a house there, which you see on the screen. And where did we go here? And the one in Mount Carmel, Utah, where they established a summer studio. Both houses were completed in 1940. As he wrote to his friend and patron Harold Clark, "I'm in bad shape and can't do anything but sit around and wait for climate or hellfire to catch up with me." And catch up it did. After 1945, Mount Carmel's altitude of 5,300 feet became too much for him. They remained in Tucson for the last year and a half of Maynard's life. This will come up. Edith enjoyed painting the desert scenes. I think I'm going to have one out of two out of order here. Painting the desert scenes in her new residence, and on the screen is Rancho Vieja of 1940-41. And here is another handsome landscape, Mesas at sundown, about 1935. The works are hard to date, in the Buck collection at the University of California at Irvine, which has got a brand new museum. I'll go back and show you this. And here they are sketching out in the Arizona saguaros. So, she made a brochure advertising paintings of the Southwest. Her subjects are the thorn flats and broken ranges of southern Arizona, and the yellowing cottonwoods of the river courses in autumn, the colored mesas and benchlands of southwestern Utah, the tinted sea-level desert of southeastern California. She shows us the desert lands as seen from the sympathetic view of a painter who knows them as home. Edith's 1940 portrait, Maynard Dixon, Painter of the Desert, is a tender image. Though aged Dixon posed in the austere Arizona desert they both treasured, the warm glow in the background beyond the purple mountains suggests the warmth of their relationship. His pose is relaxed, and he holds a cigarette in his slender left hand as he looks directly at Hamlin. One senses the tall, lean, lanky form that his friends found so distinctive when they saw him walking on the streets during his San Francisco years. Portrayed at rest, he appears weary after a long, successful career, but happy in his marriage. Maynard Dixon's last mural commission was for the Santa Fe Railway's new Los Angeles ticket office, and he chose the Grand Canyon of the Colorado as his theme. His design was approved in late August 1946, but by which time he was on oxygen 24 hours a day and confined to a wheelchair. Too weak to hold a brush, Hamlin supervised the completion of the mural, assisted by Ray Strong and Buck Weaver, both of whom had studied with Dixon. Beginning in October, the three worked 6 weeks to finish it. Installed in Los Angeles on November 8, 1946, Dixon died 5 days later. The mural is signed by all four artists, Dixon first, of course. Dixon wanted Edith to have the $10,000 he was to be paid for the mural, as he had no life insurance. Not long before he died, Hamlin made a drawing of Maynard's narrow, flexible hand. As Daniel observed, other parts of his body finally wore out, but not the strength and sensitivity of that hand. Daniel declared, if there's one heroine in this piece, it was Edith Hamlin Dixon. Constance concurred. I don't doubt that without you, the last span of his life would have been one of considerable unhappiness and misery, and that he very possibly might not have had the will to survive it. I will always feel that his marriage to you gave him such love and devotion as very few are fortunate enough to experience, but because of it actually comprised a further lease on life that he would never have had without you. Life after Maynard. The Hamlin's three largest commissions came after Maynard's passing. Ansel Adams' portrait of Hamlin, taken about 1950, records her high cheekbones and long eyelashes, but she looks strong, capable, and focused on the future. In early December 1946, unaware that Maynard Dixon had died just a few weeks before, the Santa Fe Railway officials wrote inquiring if he might be interested in painting a pair of murals for their newly remodeled Chicago ticket office. It was a splendid space with two big walls for the murals and large windows on the other two sides, allowing the space to be filled with light. This was an exceptional professional opportunity for Hamlin, as the Santa Fe Railway had formed the first corporate art collection in America, and a surprising number of women received patronage from the railroad. Partnering with the Fred Harvey Company, together these successful business enterprises provided travelers with safe adventures via first-class transportation and comfortable lodging, good food, aiming to immerse visitors in an authentic, we use that word a lot today, experience of the American West. There was an emphasis on promoting the Southwest, particularly Arizona and New Mexico. Hamlin chose subjects from both of these states, selecting scenes that were personally important to her as well, and executed two large, handsome murals. The Grand Canyon, we see on the screen here, 32 feet by 9 feet, and the Eagle Dance of Taos coming up, 18 by 9 feet, both completed in 1947. When asked what her fee was, she responded, well, I think it's worth $10,000. Hamlin admitted that they responded so quickly she might have gotten more money. But too late. Company officials agreed to the sum but gave her only 2 months to complete them. She assured them that with photographic material at hand and Taos and Canyon in my mind, I'll get the job done and I expect to enjoy that. She made the deadline, recalling later that the commission helped tide me over in that sad time in my life. Hamlin had visited the canyon many times, and her mural celebrating Arizona's signature landscape feature is a stunning composition that captures the subject's magnificent scale and rich color palette. The rainbow in the upper right-hand corner conveys an element of hope for her in the aftermath of Dixon's death. In 1932, Hamlin had visited Taos for the first time, arriving in early summer and staying until early fall when she ran out of money. By the time she left, she realized, I had lost my heart to New Mexico, and how many of us have had that experience? With Dixon, she subsequently enjoyed more visits to Taos. Hamlin was particularly interested in the native ceremonies. She said, we had wonderful parties, she later recalled, because our Indian guests performed the eagle dances and buffalo dances right in our living room. Can't get closer than that. The Eagle Dance is a healing ceremony that is not seasonal, is performed at multiple pueblos. In Hamlin's murals, chanters and drummers on the left side and the two women and a child on the right flank the two male dancers who face each other in the center. They make sweeping motions with their wings. The ancient Taos Pueblo fills the background of this painting. And to stand in front of it, they literally are dancing right in front of you. Hamlin used the money she earned on this project to build a studio in Mount Carmel. The even lighting and 30-foot long walls were perfect for murals. 2 years later, in 1949, the Turquoise Goddess and the Warrior Twins was installed in the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix. The most spectacular of her hanger pieces, oil paint on linen. It's located in the Gold Room, once the hotel's main dining room. It measures 9 feet by 28 feet and is a companion piece to Dixon's earlier Legend of the Sun and Earth. His painting was inspired by the Hopi, while Hamlin chose the Navajo. On the left side is the heroic figure of Turquoise woman who looks toward her sons, the Warrior Twins, who stride toward her. The Navajos hold Turquoise woman as one of the highest and most sacred goddesses. The twins are the culture heroes of the tribe whose deeds have been recounted and impersonated along the Navajos' dance and story. The gods are shown in the mural with symbols of their power, the magic sand, the traveling ring of Turquoise woman, and the warrior's bow, shield, and long sheath knife and sacred feathers. Below, the ancestors gather in ceremonial rites, bearing sacred pollen, prayer sticks, a quiver of sacred arrows, and drums and rattles of the chanters. The little fir tree rain. The little fir tree, rain, sun, and birds have their part in the Indians' oneness with nature. A photograph, if you really want to see how big this is Hamlin posing in the right-hand portion of this, conveying the scale of the mural. This chronicle takes us to Hamlin to 1949, the year she did a mural for the Plains Hotel in Cheyenne, Wyoming, the Saga of the Cheyennes. If you've ever been there, let me know if it's still there. They don't answer their mail, so I do need to do something to find out whether it's still there. She returned to San Francisco in 1953. Her marriage to musician Frank Knight Dale in 1951 was short-lived. He was a difficult and moody person, and Hamlin had filed for divorce, but he died at the age of 46 in 1954 before it was official. For the rest of her career, she worked on a hilltop studio in the Bay Area. She sold the Tucson house in 1953 and kept the Mount Carmel house until 1963. She continued to receive mural commissions, completing 16 murals between 1950 and 1967. The last one was for the new dining room of the Standard Oil building in San Francisco on Market Street. Thank you.